Step into the shadows of Gotham's past, where the bright colors of the 1966 Batman series hide stories far darker than they appeared on screen. In this video, we uncover the final resting places of 15 actors who once brought the Caped Crusader's world to life, legends whose journeys ended far from the spotlight. But graves are only the beginning. Behind the cheerful camp and comic book charm lies a maze of hidden truths, secret tensions on set careers reshaped by fame, personal battles the public never saw, and the mysterious events that shaped one of television's most iconic series. This is a haunting, nostalgic descent into the untold history of Batman, 1966-1968. A tribute, a revelation, and a reminder that even heroes and villains eventually fade into legend. Alan Napier, born January 7, 1903, stepped into the shoes of the loyal butler Alfred Pennyworth in the camp classic Batman series in 1966, at the dignified age of 63, bringing a Shakespearean gravity to the absurdity of the Batcave. While the show became a pop culture phenomenon, his estimated weekly salary of approximately $2,500 was a comfortable yet static sum in an era where the cost of living was skyrocketing. That amount in the mid-1960s could purchase a brand new Ford Mustang with change to spare, yet compared to the merchandising empire the show spawned, lunchboxes, toys, and comics generating millions. His compensation was a mere drop in the Wayne Manor bucket. His later years were marred by the cruel frailty of the human body. Unlike the indomitable butler, he played Napier suffered a severe stroke in 1987 that stripped away his independence, leaving him hospitalized and fighting a losing battle against pneumonia, a stark contrast to the robust health he projected on screen. The emotional toll of outliving his beloved wife Aileen by nearly 3 decades created a profound, silent loneliness that he carried behind his stoic, British, stiff upper lip. He passed away on August 8, 1988, in Santa Monica, California at the age of 85, finally succumbing to the after effects of his stroke. In accordance with his wishes, his earthly remains were cremated and his ashes were scattered in the garden of his home in Pacific Palisades, California, uniting him with the rose bushes he so loved tending. Fun fact, he was a close relative of British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and had never read a comic book before being cast, famously saying he only took the job to pay for a renovation, yet his portrayal set the template for every cinematic Alfred to follow. From the stoic butler now to the oblivious guardian, a sweet maternal figure masking a tragic and rapid physical decline. Madge Blake, born May 31, 1899, assumed the role of Aunt Harriet Cooper in Batman, 1966, at the age of 67, tasked with adding a layer of propriety to Wayne Manor, though she was often completely unaware of the dynamic duo's secret lives. Despite her recognizable face from sitcoms, her compensation was modest, estimated at $1,000 per episode, a wage that, while seemingly high enough to buy a year's supply of groceries for a family of 4 in 1966, was a fraction of what her male co-stars commanded and offered little security against the rising medical costs she would soon face. Her time on the series was plagued by severe and deteriorating health. She suffered a debilitating fall during the show's run that resulted in a broken ankle, an injury that refused to heal properly due to her underlying frailty, forcing writers to reduce her role significantly as she could barely stand for long takes. This physical agony was compounded by the emotional weight of feeling like a burden to the production, a silent struggle she hid behind Aunt Harriet's cheerful demeanor until her body simply could not continue. She died tragically young, just a year after the show ended, passing away on February 19, 1969, in Pasadena, California, at the age of 69 after a massive heart attack effectively ended her suffering. She was laid to rest at Grandview Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Fun fact, she was actually a government employee in the passport division of the Department of the Interior during World War II before becoming an actress, and her clueless but loving character became the prototype for the innocent bystander trope in superhero fiction. From the oblivious Aunt Now to the Caped Crusader himself, the bright knight who soared to dizzying heights only to crash into a decades-long struggle for respect. Adam Westbourne, September 19, 1928, donned the cowl as Batman Bruce Wayne in the television series Batman 1966, at the age of 38, delivering a deadpan performance that defined the character for a generation. While he was the face of a global phenomenon, his initial contract paid him roughly $3,000 per episode of salary that allowed him to purchase a luxury home in the Hollywood Hills at the time. Yet it was a pittance compared to the hundreds of millions the Batmania merchandise generated, of which he received virtually zero royalties. His post-Batman life was a harrowing journey through the dark valley of typecasting. For decades, he was mocked and rejected by serious directors, forced to make humiliating appearances at car shows and carnivals just to pay the bills, a professional exile that drove him into periods of deep depression and alcohol reliance as he watched his peers ascend while he remained trapped in the cowl. The physical toll of the suit also left him with minor but nagging back injuries from stunts performed without modern safety standards. He ultimately found redemption through voice acting, but his final battle was a short, brave fight against leukemia, a diagnosis he kept private to protect his family from public scrutiny. He passed away on June 9, 2017 in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 88, finally at peace with the character that both made and broke him. His earthly remains were cremated, and his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean. Fun fact, West was actually offered the role of James Bond in Diamonds Are Forever, but turned it down because he firmly believed only a British actor should play 007, a decision that cemented his legacy as the eternal Bright Knight, whose comedic timing saved the franchise from obscurity. From the Caped Crusader now to the Clown Prince of Crime, the Latin lover who refused to shave for a role and laughed his way into villainous history, Cesar Romero, born February 15, 1907, burst onto the screen as the Joker in Batman 1966 at the age of 59, bringing a manic energy that transformed the character from a comic book homicidal maniac into a gleeful prankster. While he was already an established Hollywood star, his weekly salary for the series was estimated at $3,000 per episode, a significant sum in 1966 that was roughly equivalent to the price of a brand new Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. Yet it paled in comparison to the billions the Joker brand would eventually generate in global merchandising, for which he received no residuals. His life was a study in contrasts, known as a confirmed bachelor in Hollywood, a euphemism that hid his private life as a gay man from a judgmental public. He maintained a pristine image while battling the physical decay of age away from the cameras. His final years were ravaged by a severe bout of bronchitis and pneumonia that weakened his system, ultimately leading to a massive blood clot in his leg. This peripheral vascular disease caused immense suffering and complications that his aging body could not withstand. He passed away on January 1, 1994 in Santa Monica, California, at the age of 86 due to complications from the clot and pneumonia. He was laid to rest at Inglewood Park Cemetery in Inglewood, California. Fun fact, Romero famously refused to shave his signature mustache for the role, forcing makeup artists to smear white grease paint directly over it, a visible imperfection that paradoxically added to the Joker's chaotic charm and remains a legendary piece of TV trivia. From the maniacal villain now to the bumbling lawman, a chaotic Irishman played by an American who suffered a fatal price for his sudden fame. Stafford Rep, born April 26, 1918, exploded onto the screen as Chief O'Hara in Batman 1966 at the age of 48, adopting an exaggerated Irish brogue that became so iconic it ultimately destroyed his career. While he provided the comedic foil to Batman's seriousness, his compensation was that of a supporting character actor, earning approximately $500 per episode, a wage that could purchase a modest family car in the mid-60s, but offered zero long-term security once the Batmania bubble burst. His post-show life was a tragedy of typecasting and physical neglect. Unable to find serious work because producers only saw him as the buffoonish chief, he faced severe financial stress that likely contributed to his rapid health decline. He suffered from unmanaged hypertension and the physical strain of a lifetime of heavy character work, which culminated in a sudden, massive cardiac arrest just years after the show ended. He collapsed at a racetrack, his heart giving out completely at the remarkably young age of 56, leaving his family in shock and financial uncertainty. He passed away on November 5, 1974, in Inglewood, California, a victim of the very industry that made him famous. He was laid to rest at Westminster Memorial Park in Westminster, California. Fun fact: before Hollywood, Rep served in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and despite his convincing O'Hara accent, he was born and raised in San Francisco, proving his often overlooked range as a performer. From the clumsy subordinate now to the stoic superior, a silent film heartthrob whose voice commanded the bat phone. Neil Hamilton, born September 9, 1899, assumed the role of Commissioner James Gordon in Batman 1966 at the age of 67, serving as the grounded anchor of sanity in a city gone mad. A veteran of the silent era, his salary was a respectable $2,000 per episode, a figure that in 1966 held the purchasing power to buy a small parcel of land in expanding Los Angeles. Yet it was a far cry from the superstar wages he commanded as a leading man in the 1920s when he was a top box office draw. His later life was a quiet battle against the frailty of the respiratory system. After decades of exposure to the heavy smoke and dust of early Hollywood sets, he developed severe chronic asthma that plagued his final years. This respiratory distress escalated into an acute attack that his 85-year-old lungs could not recover from, leading to a slow and labored decline as his breath finally failed him. He passed away on September 24, 1984 in Escondido, California, at the age of 85, succumbing to the complications of an asthma attack. In a final tribute to his love for the ocean and the freedom it represented away from the studio lights, he was cremated and his ashes were scattered at sea. Fun fact: in his youth, Hamilton was considered widely as the perfect man and was a top model for the famous Gibson Guy illustrations, a legacy of handsomeness that made his transition to the buttoned-up commissioner a brilliant casting subversion. From the stoic superior now to the aristocratic waddler, a trainer of champions who squawked his way into immortality. Burgess Meredith, born November 16, 1907, waddled into history as the Penguin in Batman 1966 at the age of 59, transforming a grotesque comic book villain into a dapper, monocled gentleman of crime. While he was a revered stage actor, his negotiated salary for his recurring appearances was approximately $3,500 per episode, a sum that in the mid-1960s possessed the purchasing power to acquire a pristine top-of-the-line Cadillac DeVille convertible. Yet this compensation was a mere fraction of the character's merchandising value, which saw his likeness stamped on millions of lunchboxes and toys from which he earned negligible royalties. His performance concealed a genuine physical struggle. Meredith, a former smoker who had quit for health reasons, was forced by the script to constantly smoke cigarettes in a holder. The acrid smoke severely irritated his throat and esophagus, causing painful coughing spasms that he brilliantly improvised into the Penguin's signature quack quack laugh to avoid ruining the take a sound born of respiratory distress. His final years were stolen by the dual cruelty of melanoma and Alzheimer's disease. The skin cancer aggressively metastasized, while his brilliant mind, which had memorized Shakespeare and Twilight Zone monologues, slowly eroded into confusion and silence, trapping him in a fog of lost memories. He passed away on September 9, 1997, in Malibu, California, at the age of 89. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean near his home, returning him to the sea he loved. Fun fact, he was the first choice to play the Penguin's father in Batman Returns 1992, but fell ill. Yet his growling voice as Mickey Goldmill in Rocky remains one of cinema's most imitated sounds. From the gentleman villain now to the delusional scholar, a brilliant giant trapped in a tragic struggle against his own weight. Victor Buono, born February 3, 1938, crashed onto the scene as the flamboyant King Tut in Batman 1966 at the shockingly young age of 28, though his imposing size and mature voice made him appear decades older. Despite playing one of the show's most popular original villains, his guest star fee was likely around $1,500 to $2,000 per week, a respectable amount that could cover the annual rent of a spacious Los Angeles apartment in 1966, yet it offered no protection against the health crisis that loomed over him. His life was defined by a heartbreaking battle with obesity. Weighing nearly 400 pounds, he suffered from severe strain on his cardiovascular system. a condition exacerbated by the heavy, stifling Egyptian costumes he wore under the hot studio lights. This physical burden led to chronic hypertension and eventual heart failure, a tragic reality for a man of such intellect and wit who was trapped in a body that was failing him rapidly. His death was sudden and devastating. He suffered a massive fatal heart attack at his ranch in Apple Valley on New Year's Day, collapsing just weeks before his 44th birthday, a talent extinguished far too soon. He passed away on January 1st, 1982 in Apple Valley, California at the age of 43. He was laid to rest at Mount Hope Cemetery in San Diego, California, alongside his mother. Fun fact, Buono was a Shakespearean scholar and a published poet who released comedy albums commenting on his weight, famously playing the villain in The Wild Wild West, yet he remains the only actor to play a Batman villain created specifically for the TV show who crossed over into the comics. From the false pharaoh now to the high-kicking heroine, a ballet dancer who smashed glass ceilings with a motorcycle kick. Yvonne Craig, born May 16, 1937, roared onto the screen as Batgirl Barbara Gordon in 1967 at the age of 30, brought in to save the show's falling ratings with her purple suit and motorcycle. While she became a feminist icon for a generation of girls, her salary was approximately $1,250 per episode. A figure that, while significantly higher than the average secretary's annual wage of $4,000 at the time, was still inequitable compared to her male counterparts, especially considering she performed her own dangerous stunts without hazard pay. Her later life was a quiet, courageous battle against a relentless enemy. Unlike the cartoon villains she defeated with a spin kick, she faced metastatic breast cancer that eventually spread to her liver. This terminal diagnosis compromised her immune system and caused immense physical fatigue, a cruel irony for a woman who had trained as a professional ballerina and prided herself on her incredible athleticism and agility. She fought the disease privately for 2 years, enduring chemotherapy, with the same stoic grace she displayed as the daughter of Commissioner Gordon, shielding her fans from her pain until the very end. She passed away on August 17, 2015 in Pacific Palisades, California, at the age of 78. Her earthly remains were cremated, and her ashes were given to her family to be kept in a private urn. Fun fact, Craig famously performed all her own stunts on Batman, utilizing her professional ballet training to execute high kicks that stunt doubles couldn't replicate, and she later painted her entire body green to play the psychotic Orion slave girl in Star Trek, cementing her status as the queen of 1960s sci-fi cult classics. From the high-kicking heroine now to the diamond-obsessed enchantress, a gothic icon who played a villainess while masking a future of silent suffering. Carolyn Jones, born April 28, 1930, mesmerized Gotham as Marcia, Queen of Diamonds in 1967 at the age of 37, bringing a sultry, magical charisma to the series that rivaled her most famous role as Morticia Addams. Although she was a major television star, her guest appearance fee was likely in the range of $2,500 to $3,000, a sum that in the late 1960s possessed the purchasing power to buy a high-end mink coat or a down payment on a Beverly Hills bungalow. Yet it was a fleeting paycheck for a woman whose career was often defined by the residuals she didn't earn from syndication. Her life was cut short by a brutal and agonizing battle with malignant colon cancer diagnosed in 1981. The disease aggressively attacked her digestive system, causing severe weight loss and chronic, debilitating pain that she hid from the public. Despite the agony, she continued to work on the soap opera Capitol, playing a matriarch from a wheelchair because she was physically too weak to stand, using heavy makeup to conceal the pallor of impending death. She passed away on August 3, 1983 in West Hollywood, California, at the tragically young age of 53, finally succumbing to the cancer that had consumed her. She was laid to rest at Melrose Abbey Memorial Park in Anaheim, California. Fun fact, she was married to future mega-producer Aaron Spelling during his years as a struggling writer, and she famously told him she would support him until he made it a promise she kept before their amicable divorce. From the spellbinding sorceress now to the world's smartest criminal, a horror legend who threw eggs but lived in fear of a breathless end. Vincent Price, born May 27, 1911, cracked the code as the highly intelligent villain Egghead in Batman 1966 at the age of 55, delighting in the campy absurdity that was the antithesis of his terrifying screen persona. As a horror icon, his guest fee was among the highest on the show, estimated at $4,000 per episode, a significant amount that could purchase a rare piece of fine art in 1966, a fitting expenditure for a man who was a renowned art collector. Yet even this wealth could not buy back the health he sacrificed for his craft. His final decade was a slow, suffocating torture caused by emphysema and Parkinson's disease. A lifelong smoker who often held a cigarette as a prop, his lungs were eventually destroyed, leaving him in a constant state of air hunger, where every breath was a conscious, exhausting struggle. This respiratory failure was compounded by the tremors of Parkinson's, which robbed him of the ability to hold a paintbrush or a pen, stripping away his beloved hobbies one by one. He passed away on October 25, 1993 in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 82 from lung cancer and emphysema. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered off the coast of Point Dume, California. Fun fact: Price was a gourmet chef who authored several best-selling cookbooks and even recorded audio instructional tapes on how to cook fish, proving his taste was as refined as his voice. From the master of horror now to the queen of glamour, a socialite whose final act was a decade-long tragedy behind closed doors. Zsa Gabor, born February 6, 1917, sashayed into Gotham as the villainous spa owner Minerva in the series finale in 1968, at the age of 51, playing a heightened version of her own diamond-studded persona. While she was famous for being famous, her appearance fee was likely a standard $2,000, a negligible sum for a woman of her exorbitant lifestyle, barely enough to cover the cost of maintaining her Bel Air wardrobe for a month. Yet she took the role to keep her name in the headlines. Her longevity became a curse in her final years. After a devastating car accident in 2002 left her partially paralyzed, her health entered a horrific downward spiral involving massive strokes and aggressive infections. In 2011, her right leg was amputated above the knee due to untreated gangrene, a gruesome complication that left the once glamorous star bedridden, fed through tubes, and unable to speak for the last 5 years of her life, trapped in a body that had become a prison. She passed away on December 18, 2016 in Los Angeles, California, at the incredible age of 99, just weeks shy of her centenary, finally freed from a decade of medical intervention. She was laid to rest at Kerepesi Cemetery in Budapest, Hungary. Fun fact: she was the only Batman villain to effectively win against the dynamic duo, as she successfully deduced Batman and Robin's secret identities in the final episode, though she used the information merely to flirt rather than destroy them. From the glamour queen now to the mobster's bride turned accomplice. A versatile stage talent whose defining cinematic moment was often overshadowed by the men around her. Julie Gregg, born January 24, 1937, stepped into the colorful chaos of Gotham as Fenella in Batman. 1966, at the youthful age of 29, bringing a frantic, wide-eyed energy to her role as a henchwoman caught up in the Penguin schemes. While she would go on to act in cinema's greatest masterpiece, her compensation for this television stint was likely a standard day player rate of approximately $850 per week, a sum that in the mid-60s could cover 3 months of rent for a modest apartment in the San Fernando Valley, or purchase a high-end color television set. Yet it offered no long-term financial safety net against the volatile nature of an acting career that saw long stretches of unemployment. Her final act was written by a cruel and relentless author. She waged a long private war against cancer, a disease that systematically dismantled her physical autonomy. The malignancy subjected her to the grueling cycles of chemotherapy which ravaged her immune system and caused severe neuropathy and muscle wasting, slowly sapping the strength from a woman known for her vocal power on Broadway. She fought this battle away from the limelight, shielding her legacy from the pity of the public eye until her body could no longer sustain the fight. She passed away on November 7, 2016 in Van Nuys, California, at the age of 79. Her earthly remains were cremated and her ashes were scattered at sea, returning her to the eternal currents of the Pacific. Fun fact: she is best remembered for screaming "Michael" in The Godfather, playing the brother's wife, a role that immortalized her in film history despite her limited screen time. From the forgotten accomplice now to the icy intellectual, a method-acting giant who chilled Gotham while heating up the spaghetti western frontier. Eli Wallach, born December 7, 1915, donned the Sub-Zero suit as the third incarnation of Mr. Freeze in Batman 1967 at the age of 52, bringing a sinister, calculated menace to the role that contrasted sharply with his predecessors. A heavyweight of the stage and screen, his negotiated fee was a substantial $4,500 per episode, a significant paycheck that boasted the purchasing power to buy a brand new Cadillac DeVille in 1967 with cash to spare. Yet this TV money was a stable luxury compared to the erratic, sometimes unpaid wages of the Italian film industry where he found his greatest fame. His longevity was nothing short of miraculous, but it came with a steep price. In his later years, he suffered a stroke that permanently blinded him in his left eye, robbing him of depth perception and leaving him to navigate a world that had suddenly gone flat and dark on one side. This partial blindness, combined with severe hearing loss that required powerful hearing aids to conduct conversations, turned his final performances into feats of sheer memory and instinct, as he could barely see his co-stars or hear his cues. He passed away on June 24, 2014 in New York City at the astoundingly resilient age of 98, simply worn out by nearly a century of living. He was laid to rest at the Jewish Cemetery in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Fun fact: while filming The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he was nearly decapitated by a train step and poisoned by acid used to modify coin props, making his survival to age 98 even more improbable. From the icy intellectual now to the man of 1,000 faces, a villain so mysterious, he literally erased his own name from the opening credits. Malachi Throne, born December 1, 1928, assumed the role of the unsettling, shape-shifting false face in Batman 1966 at the age of 38, delivering a performance that was unique in the series because his actual face was never once shown on screen, hidden permanently behind a semi-transparent plastic mask. While he was a respected character actor, his compensation for the two-part arc was likely a standard guest rate of approximately $1,500 to $2,000, a sum that in the mid-1960s possessed the respectable purchasing power to cover a full year of tuition and room and board at a prestigious private university like Harvard, or purchase a brand new Plymouth Barracuda straight off the lot. However, compared to the long-term syndication revenue the show generated, his fee was negligible, especially considering he forfeited screen credit, which could have boosted his quote for future roles. His final years were darkened by a harrowing and aggressive battle with late-stage lung cancer, a cruel diagnosis for a man whose deep, resonant voice was his trademark instrument. The malignancy metastasized, rapidly invading his respiratory system and creating a terrifying condition known as air hunger, where the lungs can no longer oxygenate the blood, leading to severe fatigue and the gradual loss of the ability to speak without exhaustion. He endured this suffocation with privacy and dignity, fighting against the fading of the light until his body could no longer draw breath. He passed away on March 13, 2013 in Brentwood, California at the age of 84, finally succumbing to the disease. His earthly remains were cremated, and his ashes were scattered at sea off the coast of California, blending with the Pacific currents. Fun fact: Throne was furious that the script called for him to wear a mask the entire time, so he demanded his name be removed from the credits, resulting in the character being billed simply as, which ironically made the performance even more legendary among fans. Who's your favorite character from Batman? It's always tough to say goodbye to beloved cast members who are no longer with us. How does that make you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're enjoying our content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. We appreciate having you in our community.